obviously sports have been shut down for like two months and some change now. And if sports were still going on, this stay at home quarantine stuff wouldn't be as bad. Like, imagine if we were at home and the NBA playoffs were going on right now. Like, it would kind of be lit, because right now it's supposed to, typically around this time of year, it should be like the conference finals in the NBA, at least the conference finals, and then going into the NBA finals right about now. So if we could have been home the past 2 months, think about when everything shut down. It was middle of March. It was the middle of March, like March 13th-ish, when everything sports-wise started shutting down. And so at that time, you have the college basketball conference tournaments. You have the NCAA tournament right after that, which everybody, I don't care if you're a sports fan or not, everybody tunes into that for different reasons, whether you're, like at my job, last year we made a bracket and everybody put money in the pool, and there's just so many different reasons why people outside of sports participate in that. And then you have the start of the NBA playoffs, which usually starts at the end of April, and then now we're in May, where it would be gearing up to go towards the NBA finals. And so it's just all these huge sports events that usually happen around March, April, May, June period, is just, we've lost that. And especially in a time where we've been at home, and in a time where we've needed a sense of an escape from this reality, or something to cheer for, something to root for. Because really all we see on TV every day is, like I said, all you see is the news about, the health, somebody else caught the virus, somebody else died from the virus, the economy, all the bad stuff. Sports is that escape from all that bad stuff. So imagine if we had sport right now, and you were able to cheer for your favorite team, you were able to cheer for your college in the tournament. It would just be a much better situation. And so I'm excited, because it at least sounds like there's some glimmer of hope for sports, obviously in a much different way. You're not going to have fans in the stadiums. You're not going to be playing at the big arenas, but it sounds like they're at least trying to make an effort to come up with some form of plan to hopefully, barring health and whatnot, to hopefully get the NBA at least back on track. Now, as far as like football goes, this is just my personal opinion. I think for them, it's obviously they're still trying to plan and still trying to get things in place, but it's not as big of an urgency as, basketball, because you were literally in the middle of a season. Whereas the NFL, they still have some time until they actually ramp up and get into season. So with basketball, honestly, I'm really curious to see if they come back, how they're going to do it. There were some reports from ESPN, and it says the NBA is in talks to resume play at Disney's ESPN Wide World of Sports complex. So that is actually in Orlando, Florida. And so basically, if you read the ESPN article, just kind of details that logistically the NBA is trying to figure out how they can, I guess, host all the teams, all the players at the ESPN Sports Complex in Orlando. And so I think that's super interesting, because you're going to have to find a way to be able to accommodate all those players. And then are their families going to be allowed there? Like, because obviously I'm sure, the teams that are in the championship hunt, and obviously you don't want to lose out on your paychecks either. So I can imagine the players are willing to do this. But if your family's not allowed to be there, and you're pretty much quarantined in a room, and then going to practice and playing games for 2.5 months, or however long, a month and a half, 2 months, however long like the process will take to finish the season, that's going to be a pretty mentally draining process. So I'm really curious to see how they execute that. I think you should allow, pretty much, I think if you've been at home with your family, nobody from your family has the virus, nobody that you know of from your family has the virus, and you've been quarantining with those same people, I think numbers-wise and logistics-wise, if they can accommodate your family, I think they should be able to have their family with them, their loved ones with them, and then everybody just quarantine with the same exact people you've been with all along. You can't like go out and do any stuff like that, and you just finish the season like that. But it'll be interesting to see, that's for sure. And I'm not really too knowledgeable about the complex there in Orlando, so I don't know how the courts will be. I don't know if it'll be like a AAU type of setup. I don't know what it'll be, but it's just interesting to see how these professional leagues are going to have to adjust based on the circumstances that they're being dealt right now. But I do think that it's at least giving the real world some hope in the sense that these professional leagues are a business. So obviously, there have been a lot of big companies that have come out in the past week who have said, our employees can work from home for the rest of 2021. Or even like Twitter, they actually said, their CEO said their employees can work from home for the rest of time, like for the rest of their lives if they want to. So there's a lot of big corporations, a lot of big companies who obviously money's into play in all of it. You don't want to lose money, and you're trying to have to find creative ways to successfully still run your business given the circumstances and given the cards that were being dealt. So when it comes to sports is obviously all contact. You're always touching other players, other personnel, training staff, coaches, so on and so forth. So it's encouraging to see that they're taking the steps to see if this could actually be a real thing. Also scary because what if they resume the season, everybody's in Orlando, and one person gets the virus, and that one person played in the game, and just like how it happened at the beginning, like they had to shut everything down, is that going to happen again? And I think that's kind of what they're trying to figure out logistically is, talking to the right medical professionals, talking to the health experts, and seeing, hey, if we start this thing back up, what's going to happen if one person tests positive? Because the last thing you want is to start this up, quarantine everybody, have those players around each other nonstop. One person get it, then you have to go test everybody else and shut everything down, and you just lose money. So yeah, it'll be super interesting to see logistically how this all plays out, because I think basketball wise, if you're able to get like 2 to 3 solid weeks of like training camp in, just with your teams, getting back in shape, everybody getting, used to playing with each other again, touching the ball again, being in the gym again. And then you can play a few regular season games, exhibition games, whatever you want to call it, and then get in the playoffs. I think the basketball will be really good. It's just like logistically, how is it going to work out? And then with like the TV partnerships and everything like that, I'm just curious to see how the product is going to look on TV, because obviously anytime you see an NBA game or a professional sports game, you're used to seeing all these fans in the stadium and hearing all this noise in the stadium, and you can tell the atmosphere completely changes when you get into like March Madness or the NBA playoffs or the NFL playoffs or the Super Bowl, the NBA finals, whatever the case is. And so removing that environment, I think the players will be fine because it'll be weird. But at the end of the day, once you put the ball on the floor, you're playing basketball. But from the viewing perspective on TV, it'll be weird. And I hope that they do it in a way that, being a basketball player at a lower level college, I played in small gyms basically all throughout college. And so there would be times at like, Christmas break in college or Thanksgiving break in college, all the students would be at their houses at home. And so it's pretty much we're just playing in front of our parents and close family members, maybe your girlfriend, but there's not many people in the gym during this time. So if somebody was mouthing off, the fans could hear everything you're saying. And so that's normal at the level that I played. But in the NBA, if you buy a ticket to the game and you're sitting in section 350 way up at the top, you can't hear a thing that the players are saying. Or even if you're sitting in section 100, like in the lower levels, you still can't hear anything because it's so loud and you're so far removed from the players. But the NBA players do talk trash. They do say a lot of stuff that you probably can't put on TV. And just knowing how competitive basketball is and competitive sports are, like especially in the playoffs, there's going to be a lot of trash talking, a lot of foul language. So I'm curious to see how they execute it and put it on TV, because obviously you're going to have sound. And if you have sound, you're going to be able to hear everything that they're saying because there's going to be no crowd noise. So I'm hoping what they do is, I don't know how many of y'all watched The Last Dance, the documentary on the 98 Bulls and Michael Jordan. But basically, long story short, for those of y'all that haven't seen it, all that footage came from the 1998 season from the Chicago Bulls. And basically, there was a camera crew who had all access to the Bulls everywhere they were going. And so obviously practices, games, so on and so forth, there was a lot of foul language, and ESPN thankfully didn't censor any of that out. Like, they put the explicit version, no censorship, on ESPN, and then the clean version on ESPN2. So I'm hoping that's the same thing that they do for the playoff games, or when basketball resumes. Is maybe you can put the non-censored games on ESPN and just let the players be players, and we get to actually hear the trash talk and everything that they say on the floor. And then for like the kids and other viewers, I can put the clean version on ESPN2. I don't know how it's gonna work, but it's obviously, this is a frustrating time, but I do think it's cool in the sense that you're seeing stuff that you've never seen before, and we're all having to adapt to a different way of thinking and a different environment. And I don't know if our new normal is going to be anywhere close to the old normal, but it does at least allow everybody an opportunity to adapt. It'll be interesting to see how the sports handle it, and it'll be interesting to see what the product is like when the NBA playoffs are back.